So we told you there were pieces of shit and you didn't listen, and by now you probably lost a ton of money. Well guys, welcome back to Exotic Car Hacks, and today we are talking about the 3 cars that we told you shouldn't be buying whatsoever. As a matter of fact, we've told you not only they were pieces of shit, but we actually told you that they would actually end up losing a ton of money, and you should stay away from such cars. Now, a lot of times people will say, well, you know, who has a crystal ball? Well, you don't need a crystal ball. You just need to have been in the actual industry long enough to understand the patterns that certain things shares as they depreciate. So let's take just one moment here to go through this and really look at the 3 key cars that we told you not to buy and why we told you not to buy them. So specifically the MC20, starting with the first of the batch of worst pieces of shit on earth, the MC20 takes the cake. The original MC20, which is the car from Maserati that has doors that go up, that every poor person thought they would buy, similar to the i8. The i8 was an actual atrocity as a car and did terrible, and ultimately is depreciated from 150 down to 45 to 50K, and makes a great 45, 50K piece of shit that's somewhat hybrid and works to impress basically individuals who have no money. The MC20 does exactly the same thing, and as predicted, it has crumbled exactly where we thought values would be. First coming out in the mid 200s, even as high as 300K, and now depreciating to well below the 150K line, with dealers in some cases offering as little as 100K on trade-in. The majority of first-year units being completely plagued by issues that nobody wants to deal with, ultimately dumping their cars as well, and the quality built, as I pointed out in my original video, hint this little segment here, showing you that the cars are basically made out of cheap plastic and are starting and will start to literally deteriorate very fast, as I originally predicted. My price predictions were dead on when the first car came out. My quality predictions were dead on when this car started deteriorating and dealers didn't want them because they all had recalls and issues that nobody wanted to deal with. And Maserati just announced that it's released a new version of the MC20, the Purista, whatever bullshit they're calling it, which is ultimately the exact same piece of shit with a new bumper and hopefully with less issues. Another atrocity that will depreciate another 100 grand. Even their rare race variation, which was an amazing lightweight GT2 series car, will depreciate to shit. There is no Maserati that's worth anything. It's absolute shit. Even the MC12, the original supercar or hypercar, yes, is worth more because it was like such a limited production run. Complete piece of shit too. So just don't buy Maseratis because they're all pieces of shit. And in this particular case, the MC20 is the biggest piece of shit they have yet put out, and it's the highest depreciating one. So we warned you about that. Secondly, the Cybertruck. We told you those trucks were absolute garbage. EVs will never hold the weight because they're not an art form. We don't need to actually look at the car industry to realize this. We can just look at the watch industry. Has there ever been a smartwatch, or has there ever been a G-Shock that is like digital in nature that is worth significantly more than its original time? Like meaning so much more that people could say, I can literally collect these things and they will continuously do well because of the movement in there. I'm not talking about some fashion collabs or anything else. I'm talking about just the baseline of that alone, which is just that piece. Just to think about it, is just that. Like, I want you to understand this. It's just what's in it. The Cybertruck is an EV. No EV will ever be worth more. The Rimac, the world's fastest EV with every single record, is selling at 50 cents on the dollar. And people aren't buying that garbage. So it's no different. I'm not bashing the Cybertruck because it's the poverty version of an electric supercar. Electric cars are not the future. They're not the future as it pertains to value. They're the future as it pertains to transportation, not cars. There's a difference between transportation, like saying a bus is an EV, as saying a train is EV. There's a difference between saying, hey, the car that takes you, like the taxi cab, is an EV. There's a difference between that and saying my pleasurable driving car is going to be a vacuum cleaner. Those are two different things. The Cybertruck never delivered, it never will. It looks like an Indian trash can bin from the 70s, and it's absolutely horrendous and has a hue of problems and bad reputation going with it. It has depreciated more than 50 cents on the dollar and will continue to plummet. I actually predict that a Honda Accord from like 1997 will have more worth than a Cybertruck in the next 10 years. So I want you to understand that. These are fads that come and go. This is almost as big of a failure as the Fisker Karma that we told you the Ocean was absolutely a horrendous piece of shit. People were like, oh, Fisker's back. I'm like, Fisker's bankrupt. It's just 6 months away. And guess what happened? They were bankrupt again. So looking at real money, these things don't last. They're basically novelties for people that can afford things to make them feel better about affording them. So there is a reality that while Elon Musk is an absolute amazing entrepreneur and a gift to Earth in so many ways, there is a different industry that he has absolutely done a good job at going into, which is the automotive industry, but there are reasons that there are things he ignored in the auto industry in order to sell his cars that have now cost his cars heavier depreciation than expected. And as a result, EVs will just not be cars that would hold value. We're not saying they're bad cars, like they're not good cars to drive or get driven in. We're just simply saying that from the value perspective of what we talk about on this channel, and we told you not to buy them, quality is not there, and actually the cost is not there. And the third one's gonna surprise you because the quality of the car and what it is actually excellent, but what we told you the values wouldn't hold. And the last one is the G63. And I'm gonna tell you why I've been telling people not to buy G63s, specifically because people typically are years behind what's happening in an industry because they rely on mass media to understand, or Instagram or social media to understand what's happening in an industry. So people made a lot of money in 2020 and 2021 with the rise of the G-Wagon, with hundreds of thousands of dollars over MSRP and then doing really well. And they never really left that train thinking they could keep buying new G-Wagons, making a ton of money. You rarely make money on Mercedes product, just so you understand when it's new. G-Wagons suffered two major setbacks. Significant price increases for the truck in the 200s instead of the 150 to 160K dollar that it was back in 19. So the 22, 23, 24, the prices kept increasing. You now have to pay 240K for a brand new G63 that you could literally, like well loaded, that you could have bought in 2019 for 170K. That's a huge price increase. That's like a huge 25, 30% price increase. And that is gonna hurt the G-Wagon a lot. I called it last year when I said values won't hold as competing cars depreciate, like the Urus can be bought in the 200K range used. It isn't going to give much value to buying a G63 new at that dollar when you can have an Urus Performante under warranty for fucking 240. So that didn't make any sense to me, like why the G-Wagon thought it would hold its own at that dollar, and it's following what it's always meant to do, which is depreciate heavier than ever before. Mercedes product generally depreciates unless it's very, very rare or special. Like, and in some cases, it could do well, like the AMG GT Black Series when they first come out based on the sticker, but generally they will not do better than a lot of competing cars. So the G63 is a flop on two fronts. The new price increase on the 25s, no good. If you're intending to buy one to drive it for free, don't do it. And two, their electric car is a complete fucking flop on every ground, meaning it isn't selling and it is gonna drag the value of the rest of their shit down. One big, huge mistake Mercedes made in their product line was introducing the entire electric ESQ and all of these other fucking bullshit electric versions of the E-Class, C-Class, and S-Class. These cars will not maintain the fleet and will eventually just disappear off the earth. While hybrid technology, I've always said, is here to stay, meaning that people are understanding the power of hybridization as it pertains to axles, engines, or transmissions. Many manufacturers have used hybrid power to create more horsepower. Hybrid replacements of full electric cars is just not it. And I'll stand by that. And we can see that not only people won't adopt full electric cars, secondly, I think there's a bigger issue here is that economically, electric cars aren't really better. They just create a better marketing narrative. And while the rest of the world has stuck there talking about the reason we're doing electric cars has everything to do with the economy, and more than anything else, it has everything to do with the climate, and we're trying to change the climate. Let me just give you a brief lesson in climate. Unless China and India do something about climate, there is nothing you can do at home from your recycle bin or from driving an electric car that is going to change what happens to the climate. We're not saying the climate doesn't have an issue. I'm not a climate denier. I'm simply letting you know that there's nothing you can do at home, like putting recycle bins that make certain waste management companies much richer and buying electric cars that make other people much richer, from actually helping the climate. What it will help, just so you understand why the United States pushes for such an electric mandate, is its dependency on foreign oil. The only reason the United States needs to make deals across the Middle East and Russia is primarily for oil. So if you remove this dependency on oil, because you remove all of this population needing oil for their cars, you're going to have more leverage in the world and make a country much richer, because it doesn't depend on these idiots for anything. So what you need to understand is that your electric car isn't actually helping the climate. And that's why it's depreciating at a significantly higher rate and people don't want it. That said, this has been my update on the 3 cars that I told you not to buy. And once again, because my ego needs it, you can say it in the comments. PJ, you were right. We love you. And I'll catch you next time for Exotic Car Hacks. But don't forget, tell me in the comments, what car do you think, or do you remember that I told you not to buy that I may have forgotten to talk about today? I'll catch you next time for Exotic Car Hacks.